All right, welcome everybody. I'm Rabbi Allison Solomon, and I'm a Jewish education consultant at the Osher Marin JCC in San Rafael, California. I know everyone is from all over the place, which is so exciting. Um, and more people should be joining us, but we have a very full conversation tonight. So I really just want to encourage us all to kind of take a breath and arrive into this amazing space, really the opportunity to be together as creatives and um, people who really care about what it means to be a Jewish person in the world, care about Israel. Perhaps you've come out of celebrating or experiencing the holiday of Passover in some way and, wondering what freedom is all about and the complexities of that. So just encourage us all to kind of, there's a lot of ways that we could do tonight and to just really enter a space of curiosity and wonder and your own creative expression in exploring this time together and really the privilege of getting to savor an hour of art and art making. I want to turn it over to the folks who have been really at the helm of curating this show and its many iterations, to Yona and Judith and to Nancy if she arrives. But just a tiny note of context. Um, we are at a JCC, which is a Jewish Community Center in Marin, as I mentioned. And the visitors, just so you have a kind of sense, it's about half and half Jewish and non-Jewish every day. About 2,000 people come through the JCC every day, which is pretty remarkable. And it's really a community space for people who want to, work out, to learn, to attend classes, things like that. And so the show, we do shows about four every year. And this show is really part of our quest to um, give people more context to what Judaism and Jewish life is all about, what Jews are all about. And so people engage with the art in varying degrees. Some people, spend time in a room and are studying for a class, so they'll be really exploring the art in that space. And some people just pass by literally on the way to, the pool or the hot tub. So it really has this very multi-discipline exposure. And a lot of times we don't hear what people's experience of the art is, but sometimes we do. And we're already experiencing that this show it's a showstopper. People are really pausing and taking note and having feelings, big feelings, especially some of the pieces that are in more prominent spaces. We have a hallway that's like daunting, but it's like 4 flights of stairs. And you can use the elevator, but you can also go up the hallway. And that's where we have a lot of art coming up the walkway. So everyone is seeing it, no matter where they go, they're getting connected to this art. So I'll turn it over to Yona now, and we can learn a little bit about, how this exhibit came to be, and really from Yona and Judith and Nancy, who've been so intimately connected to all of its iterations.
Okay, I thought we were going to go through some of these themes with you.
Oh, let's do the themes. Okay, great.
Okay, hold on. Let me get back.
Thank you, Judith. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, here we go.
So the themes. So the themes of the show. The reason I was thinking about it the other way was because this is really kind of what we're about to see, but it's perfect timing. So we've gone through, as I mentioned, in terms of the Jewish calendar, we're coming out of Passover, the celebration of our Exodus, Yetziat Mitzrayim from Egypt. And there's kind of four traditional phases that actually we connect to throughout the Passover Seder. And so this is a beautiful piece of art that I found today. I can't remember, Judith, I think I told you the name of it. Maybe you could put the artist in the chat just so we have it there.
Oh, the
So
graphic? The freedom graphic?
yeah,
Oh,
it's
I will look.
yeah,
I don't know.
in when I sent it to you.
Oh, okay. I will
Yeah, it
look.
was just right there. Um, so there are four phases of the Exodus that are also mapped onto the show that we're about to see, the exhibit that we're about to explore. And um, they come from actually verses in the Torah describing why and how we got out of Egypt. So they start with this sense of being taken out from oppression. So we're going to be seeing some themes and works that speak to experience and motif of slavery. And then from that, this sense of God rescuing us. And just as a note, it wasn't out of like worthiness or anything like that. It was actually an act of grace. And there's some beautiful teaching that we were silenced in these 420 years of oppression. And it was only as our voices rose, as we began to cry out, that God actually heard our cries and redeemed us. So that's the kind of second phase. And that gave rise to this opportunity of redemption, being redeemed, being literally taken out. And the Torah is very powerful in saying that we were, taken out by an outstretched arm, and it wasn't necessarily all God's. We know the story of Moses and Miriam, perhaps, where Moses is literally taken out by the hands of the daughter of Pharaoh. So this redemption is both divine but also human, very much. And that gives rise to opportunities for creation and creativity. Even the matzah itself is one of our first creative acts as we were leaving. It was literally this ball of dough on our shoulders that rose, that was created, that was, you know, made in the furnace of the sun as we were running out of Egypt. So these themes of creation and redemption kind of commingled. And that makes room for receptivity and makes room for freedom. And we're right now in a period of Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, which traces between the second night of Passover all the way to the holiday of Shavuot, the receiving of Torah. So it's almost this process of rehabilitation, that freedom doesn't just kind of pounce upon us, but rather we emerge into freedom. And this process of counting the Omer traces this arc of going from servitude and slavery and constriction, the narrowness. Mitzrayim, the word for Egypt, literally means the narrow space. And so it's this tracing from the narrow into the wide. And tonight is actually the 16th day of this process of counting the 49 days between Passover and Shavuot. So that's a little bit of context of the arc. And Yona and I worked together to think about because the show is being exhibited during this specific season that traces this arc in the Jewish calendar, we thought it would be interesting to curate and place the pieces along this same avenue, this same arc of constriction.
I think we have a
Constriction.
few people that need to mute. We have a few people who need to mute.
Yes. I'm having trouble keeping track of which ones aren't muted.
No,
So
no
please mute
worries.
yourself.
But
Thank you.
there's some sort of a sound that I think we're hearing, but I'm not sure if that's coming from your mic, Rabbi.
I don't think it is because I'm hearing it right now. So if
Yeah.
everyone could mute themselves, that would be great if they're not.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, so that's the arc, and we'll turn it over to Yona and Judith and Nancy if she's here to kind of, take us back a little bit from this arc of the Jewish calendar into the how and the why and the experience of actually these pieces emerging also from this time of big transformation right now in our Jewish world, in the world. So Yona, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rabbi Allison. By the way, there are still a few people who are not muted. If somebody could just mute them for us, that would be very helpful so we don't have any interference. Anyway, this exhibition responds directly to the disturbing trend in the art world and the world at large. What happened was galleries and museums have been canceling artists and artworks specifically because they're Jewish, or there has been targeted harassment on social media. There have been disruption of events by Hamas supporters. There is a proliferation of anti-Semitic imagery in contemporary artworks, shows, and social media. So this exhibition was initially conceived by three people, or four, I should say, all independent of each other. Judith Joseph came up with the idea of doing an online exhibit. I came up with the idea of doing a gallery exhibit. And Nancy, who will speak pretty soon, and her gallery manager, they were looking for a way to respond. So we all got together, and this was the result. Actually, this show is a variation on the first show that we had, which was in Nancy Pantera's gallery, 81 Leonard Gallery in Tribeca, New York City. We perceived it to be more than an art show. It was a call to action in the face of this rising anti-Semitism. We needed to come together and stand proud and speak loudly and create fearlessly. So Jewish artists are feeling the pressure of, and the urgency to connect and to create and reclaim our space. This exhibition gave artists, a platform to express themselves, to confront hate, to inspire strength. So through creativity and solidarity, we show the work who we are. We are vibrant, resilient, and united. So we had several goals for the exhibit. One is give voice through art, a safe space for sharing urgent stories. Claim our space in the art world. Jewish creativity belongs at the center, not at the margins. Inspire strength and renewal, art that envisions a stronger future, which, by the way, is a segue to my own artwork, which you see here. It's called Star Amulets. It's painted on wood, and it's fairly large. And its design was inspired by rappers' bling, like the rapper Flavor Flav, who used to wear these big clocks around his neck. So at the heart of his image is the Star of David, or as we call it in Hebrew, Magen David, which literally means shield of David. And it's an ancient symbol. It's already been discussed in the Talmud, and we see it in 2nd century synagogues in the Galilee. For me, the star is not just a symbol of heritage. It's a vessel of memory, protection, and transformation. I'm drawn to it because it's a thread that connects generations, and I consider it a talisman of resilience. For me, it's both a shield and a mirror. It holds the weight of exile, the light of return, and the question of belonging. And in a world, where identity is often fragmented, I see this amulet as a steady pulse, a six-pointed anchor in motion. And I'm turning it over to Judith Joseph.
Okay, and I want to take a moment just to retroactively introduce Yona. I honestly don't know exactly what you said at the beginning, Rabbi Allison, because I was scrambling with some of the tech. But I think it's important that everybody know that Yona Verwer is the director of the Jewish Art Salon, which is an international group of artists. Yona is in New York City. Nancy Pantier, who's going to speak in a moment, also is in New York City. She owns a gallery, 88 Leonard, and I am in Chicago. And we will be featuring several artists from California. We have people from South America, even Asia, Israel, all over the world, Europe. So when we come together, we're really a group, a minion, if you will, of international artists. So for me, I find that to be a wonderful community. And I think it's very easy for us to kind of each hide away in our home or in our head, especially after COVID. Spiritual things often just sort of take place privately. But I do think that after October 7th, many of us felt a need to find our community. And I have to say that the Jewish Art Salon has been a wonderful community for me, and a place where I know I can be with, talk to like-minded people. So I'm going to speak about my artwork. This is called Persephone, October 7th. The events of October 7th were so impactful for me, and I felt such a sense of horror and outrage and fear, and the silence around the world was just deafening. And the piece of it that was the most horrible to me was the idea and the images of these young people at this festival being dragged off and squirreled away underground. That just kept me awake at night, which is not to minimize the events that happened at the kibbutzim. But, the tunnels have been around for several years, since the first Intifada, when terrorists were just tunneling under the state of Israel and popping up and kidnapping children and killing people. So that's for a long time been a real source of just horror for me. So I immediately thought about the Greek myth of Persephone. She was like the young women at the October 7th festival, the Nova Festival. She was just an innocent young woman gathering flowers when she was dragged down to the underworld. She was kidnapped by Hades, the king of the underworld, and dragged down to be his queen. And she had no choice in the matter. So it was a kidnap. And her mother, Demeter, searched the wide world over. She didn't know what had happened to her daughter. So I portrayed Demeter at the top with a lantern, just sort of searching high and low. And there are wheat stalks behind her because she's the goddess of agriculture. And she's searching for her daughter, and finally she found out where she was, and she appealed to Zeus to release her. So a deal was struck where Persephone was permitted to come up above ground for half the year, and that's when we have summer. And then during the winter months, she is required to return to the underworld. So the pomegranate that's in her mouth represents the fact that in the story, Demeter, or Persephone, doesn't realize this, but if you eat something in the underworld, then you are never permitted to leave it completely. And she saw a pomegranate and ate it. And of course, the pomegranate is a very loaded symbol for Jews because the seeds represent the 613 mitzvot that are in the Torah. So this piece is really loaded with symbolism. There's an inscription on her arm, which is just simply her name in Greek, Persephone. I did put the zip ties on her wrists, as many of the captives were tied up that way. I think you can probably unpack the rest of the symbolism. The Hebrew phrase is "V'nim shalti im yordei bor," which is from Psalms, and it means I became like them that go down into the pit. And I just find that Psalms feels so relevant and so current, which is so incredible because it's so ancient, but certain things in human history just seem to repeat. So I'm going to now turn it over to Nancy Pantier.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I'm driving in a car, so I'm rocky, but I'm not driving. Someone else is driving. But anyway, my piece is called Ashes Heil. It is somewhat of a feminist piece, but it's really an anti-war piece. In my piece, you could see the figure of a woman. Her leg is off. She's clearly been violated. There's a line, a criminal line surrounding her body. And there is the words of the poem, of the prayer or the verse, it's not a prayer, of Ashes Heil in Hebrew and in English behind. I chose a collage-like format, which is not typical of my work, but mostly because the violation was just so awful and real. And, you know, as far as the women goes, I mean, the world got silent and the world got very silent on the women. What happened there, how they were torn, how they were raped, how they were violated and suffered was enormous concern to me. Also, the whole in the piece on the top right, there's mirrors in the piece. So when you look at my piece, you will see reflections of yourself. Anyone will see reflections of whoever they are. Everybody has a mother, everybody has a sister, everybody has a daughter. Many people are related to a woman and they can feel it. It could be us. So the mirror signifies the reflection of oneself. The stones on the top of the piece clearly signify when you make a visit a grave, and you put a stone on the headstone. The leg dangling is leg dangling. It's a brutal, small, compact depiction of violence and war, and the violation of women in particular. So that's pretty much what the piece is about. And I just actually came back from Auschwitz on the March of the Living, and it's real, it's out there, it's frightening, it's ugly. But, you know, putting on this show was a wonderful experience, mostly because it was shortly after October 7th. We all came together with real sincere need to be connected. So took some time, a lot of work to decide, you know, how to lay it out, how to not make it so aggressive, but make it, we were showing at the same time as the Nova Festival. So it was a tremendous turnout. And the best part was that every Jewish person that came to the gallery was thanking us for doing this, because New York galleries have changed. The tide has changed. Then it was less, now it is more, and then it was a lot. So, so basically, I think we all have to stand together, and this was my statement in particular about the violation of the women, the children, the someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's partner, so brutally violated. And like so many things on October 8th and 9th, everyone was back to Jew hating. So, so that is, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Anyone? Okay. Guys still with me?
Yes. Okay. Yona, I think it's time for the next group of artists, and I guess I'll just introduce them. We're going to proceed to the work of Joel Silverstein. So Joel, will you please tell us about your piece?
Okay. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, just want to introduce myself. I'm Joel Silverstein. Currently, I'm director of exhibitions for the Salon, and I split that job with Richard McBee. And, you know, we check in with Yona also. My painting is based on the Golem. Many of you, and it was based on a oil and acrylic painting I did 2011. This was hybrid acrylic and digital, which I just did in 2025. It was used for the cover of the Green Golem, which is a magazine that came out of graduates from Columbia to deal with the anti-Semitism. They were happy to use it. I was very grateful.
Just sit here.
For those of you that don't know the story, I guess I'll speak emotionally. It's been very difficult year in terms of dealing with anti-Semitism. I just found out today that the Sephardic synagogue 7 blocks from my childhood home was attacked by pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters. There was violence. The cops arrested people. And I grew up there, and there was, there was usual Brooklyn, anti-Jewish feeling amongst other people, but nothing violent like that. So it's a lot is happening, and it's very upsetting. I could only deal with the issue not from the Israeli side. I'm not as Israeli. I've visited there. I have friends in Israel, and through the Salon, I've met many, many people in Israel. We were guests there. I'm dealing right now with anti-Semitism in the diaspora and in America, which is shocking, and certainly for us boomers, it's frightening and shocking on every level. The Golem, for those of you who don't know, is a traditional Jewish story. It predates Prague in the Middle Ages. It goes back to the 6th to 9th centuries, but it reached its height in Prague with Rabbi Low, who is known as the Maharal, and it's tied to an actual event. So whether it happened or didn't happen, it probably didn't, but we think it did, mythologically. This was in Prague, which was part of Bohemia at that time. Now it's Czech Republic. And there was going to be a horrible pogrom, and Jews were going to be murdered. They go to the rabbi. The rabbi actually cooks up a human being using Kabbalistic lore, and that person is made out of clay, and he's called the Golem, which means unformed spirit, Golem in Hebrew. And I based this on the German movie, which was in 1920 by Paul Wegener, who was not Jewish. It's a very famous movie, predates the Frankenstein story. The Golem is a kind of fascinating character because he's tripartite, meaning he is a Superman figure because he saves the Jews. He is a Frankenstein figure because left unchecked, because he doesn't have a soul and wants to become alive, he ravages the Jewish ghetto, the Jewish quarter, and he has to be put down because human beings don't have the ability to create life in a way that's safe. And he's a stand-in for the Jewish people because the Jewish people were seen as monsters and outsiders. And this was the era of the blood libels and Jews making matzah out of Christian blood and this whole thing. We see the same charges updated against Israel. I look on the internet, how Jews are controlling the media, the world, the government. We advise everyone. We're monsters. We kill children. We, over and over again, the same exact rhetoric, including that engaging on Instagram. I saw Jesus was a Palestinian, and you have to deal with that as a reality when that's the craziest nonsense I've ever heard in my life.
Sorry, Joel, your 4 minutes are up.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, summation. This is a stand-in for all of us.
Okay, our next artist is Isaac Ben Aharon. I think you're here. I'm going to try to spotlight you, and please go ahead and tell us about your piece.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight about my piece, as well as for showing our art in California. It's much appreciated. This is my portrait of our friend, who's also a noted historian and author of Denying the Holocaust, Deborah Lipstadt. I originally did this as part of my series that's entitled Cut from the Same Cloth, where I pair people from all over the world with ethnographic textiles representing their background. And Deborah here stands in front of an embroidery of a Torah cover from 1834, embroidered by Rachel Modigliani. And I gave this to Deborah after she was named the US Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism under the Biden administration. And Deborah, the piece is called Our Voice because she has been an unbelievable advocate for the Jewish people and in calling out anti-Semitism all over the world, even before she was named to this special post, which she just left. And she likes to call herself an equal opportunity of anti-Semitism because she calls it out from the right and the left. And there's so many, since October 7th, there's been so many Jewish influencers populating the internet. and a lot of them have their own political agendas. And Deborah's very good about staying kind of in the middle and not being too partisan like. And I think we need more and more people like her that are just concerned with anti-Semitism and don't have their own political agenda. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the portrait.
I think we're going to
Hi,
do a
Isaac.
question and answer at the end, unless, did somebody just have one or?
No, I just wanted to say hello because the portrait was very strong and just beyond. We got tremendous response. I think we got a lot of attention because of it. And it was wonderful to have her in the studio. It was fabulous. It was so exciting.
Yeah, and she was very happy to attend as well.
Yeah, it was terrific. So thank you for that, because I think it was one of the highlights of the show.
Thank
It
you
was
so
really, thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to go on to our next artist, Jeremy Kagan. Are you there, Jeremy?
I'm as much here as I can be here.
Wonderful.
Grateful
Go ahead.
I'm grateful to be part of this because I respect so many of the artists that are here. And I want to say hello to Ed and Pierre and Aaron. Some people are on this call, and Holly. I am a filmmaker. Some of you may know my movies like The Chosen and Crown Heights and Golda's Balcony, but also a graphic artist. And every week for many, many years, I do each of the Torah and Haftorah blessings as a drawing or as a painting. And this particular one was specifically, those of you who know Torah may know Bahugatai, which is one of the parshas of the Torah that we really don't like to read. And the reason we don't like to read it is because it has on one side blessings, but has on the other side curses. And it enumerates them. And it enumerates them saying, if we abandon who we are, if we abandon where we come from, if we abandon Torah, if we are unethical people, we will suffer the consequences. And in the Zohar, it's particularly even more horrific to get those consequences. Talk about the Holocaust as being described literally in our own texts. And it is the demons at night that come to sort of exacerbate the behavior when we have abandoned who we are. And the only thing that can hold us on to is to remind us and to focus on the teaching and wisdom that has brought us here to this very day. And I'm one of these lucky people who grew up in the late 50s, 60s, where anti-Semitism just was not part of my world, even in New York. And now that I teach and watch my students facing this on an almost daily basis, I feel that these demons are surrounding them. And I hope we can all continually gather together to gain strength from each other and from our teaching so that we can make it through this particular Mitzrayim that we are now been thrust into. So again, thank you for letting me participate.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. We have one more artist who's going to speak about her work, Susan Maytel. Go ahead, Susan. Oh, you're muted. Can you unmute first so we can hear you?
Judith,
Do you know how to
just
do that?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Everyone said
Okay.
I'm muted.
Right.
I actually arrived to Auschwitz-Birkenau by happenstance. I was planning a trip from Prague to Budapest, and there's an overnight train that goes to Krakow. From Krakow, short train ride to Oswiecim, to Auschwitz. And I just walked the grounds. I didn't go there to like do a story, although I have been a photojournalist, but that was only part of my life. I walked the grounds in silence, in meditation, photographing the aesthetics, the mood, the sense of foreboding, and tried to capture the energy that lives in that space. I stayed 2 nights at a YMCA. The priest was in his late 20s from Krakow. What I did not realize at the time was that the March of the Living was the following day. At one point during the first day, which is when I basically was walking around Birkenau and into barracks and things, I walked into a barracks in Auschwitz with these valises. I was all by myself. I looked at that. I ran out. I was hysterical crying. I just couldn't even look at it because of the people, the young people that were there the next day. I had the courage to go in and photograph, to photograph it. The priest said, not thinking I was Jewish, I was the only one in the YMCA that night for 2 nights. He said, you'll see, the Jews aren't like us. They're going to be crying, they're going to be waving flags, blah, 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 blah. And I kept thinking to myself, I would like to see a Polish soccer match when people when your team is losing and people aren't crying and are waving flags. So, but the other thing is that I was based for 4 years as the Middle East photographer for an American photo agency with the Western Press Corps. I was taught to learn how much anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism was there with the press corps. As an example, when they had the 20th anniversary of the reunification of Jerusalem in 1987, Philippe Petit, a French typewriter artist, walked between the East and the West. And all the Western press corps was hanging out in a place called the American Colony Hotel. And a Jewish woman who's based in Cairo, the whole Western press corps traveled together pretty much, said, I'm so ashamed of my own people. And then it turned out somebody I met who was a photographer for U.S. News and World Report, she was staying at the King David Hotel, invited me to stay with her in this humongous room. So I said, I'm staying at the King David Hotel. And they were shocked. I would stay in West Jerusalem. Oh my God, how horrible that is. But I want to talk about, I've been wearing this since October 7th, and this made from Iron Dome as well. I've had people, a man in an elevator said to me, it takes courage to wear that. I was at a musical thing in the West Village where I live, and a young guy in his late 20s said, thank you. I looked at him. I didn't know him. He said, thank you for wearing that. He was in IT. He didn't wear it. A woman who's a famous actress said, oh, this is really very beautiful, also in an elevator. So it's as if the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Or get worse.
What?
Or get worse. You know, it seems to me that
the Holocaust is because the Jews caused it. What happened on May 7th is because the Jews caused it. I mean, everything. I mean, and maybe this is the right place to say it, but I think I have told people I'm politically Jewish, not religiously Jewish.
Thank you, Susan. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, Yona is going to speak about the work of Jewish Art Salon member Mark Podwall of blessed memory. He passed away, I think, within the last year. Go ahead, Yona.
Thank you, Judith. And we're honored to have here with us one of his sons, Ariel Podwell.
Oh, wow.
So Mark Podwell was an extraordinarily accomplished, prolific, and brilliant artist. He passed away last September. So we're showing you 2 works of his. This is the work that was at the gallery in New York City. And it's from a series called All This Has Come Upon Us, which is a portfolio of prints of original paintings, which are 42 paintings and drawings, remind us of how Europe's extensive history of Jew hatred set the course for the Holocaust. There are nearly 50 institutions that have bought this portfolio, including the Bodleian, the Holocaust Museum, the Library of Congress, Hebrew University, National Library of Israel. Also, the Czech television did they broadcast a documentary on this series of works when he exhibited it in Terezin. Judith, can you show the next piece? So this piece is called Auschwitz, and this is in this exhibition here. So Mark was originally known for his drawings in the op-ed section of the New York Times. For 40 years, he's been publishing there. But he has an enormously prolific career. He has done more projects than I can mention. So I'm just going to mention his books for now. He's the author and illustrator of many books. Most of these focus on Jewish legend, tradition, and history. Author Cynthia Ozick has given him the Hebrew name Baal Kav Emet, which means master of the true line. She wrote, Potwell joins the metaphysics to physics, essence to presence, ideas to real objects. The master of the true line is also the master of hidden meanings of symbol and metaphor. So Mark's works have been collected by 70 major institutions in the world. To mention a few, the Metropolitan Museum of Art here in New York, Victoria and Albert Museum, Victoria and Albert Museum, the Israel Museum, Yad Vashem, Jewish museums in Prague, Vienna, New York, Stockholm, etc. Over a period of 40 years, he also collaborated with Elie Wiesel. He's the Nobel laureate, you all heard of him. He has done numerous projects and he has illustrated all his books. He also did a Passover video for PBS. And Wiesel chose Potwell to design the Congressional Gold Medal struck by the United States Mint. Which brings me to the present. The Elie Wiesel Foundation. Oh, and Ariel, you need to know that I have the permission of the foundation to say this. They're creating a visual art contest in memory of Mark Potwell. There is some serious prize money involved. They are looking for original artworks, paintings, or drawings that tell and amplify Jewish stories, and they must be illustrating a Jewish ideal, struggle, thought, or presence. So the Elie Wiesel Foundation says they are battling anti-Semitism by celebrating Jewish voices and identity. The contest will be made public any day now. Of course, we'll publicize it on the Jewish Art Salon website, social media. I will be one of 5 jurors, but we need to preserve the anonymity of the artist for an impartial process. So if you're planning to apply, don't tell me about it. Giving it back to Judith.
Okay. I'm going to wrap up this segment of showing the individual artist's work by talking about this piece by Marina Heinz. And Marina is a California artist. I think she's from LA. And she shipped this very large piece. It's at least 6 by 6 feet, maybe 7 by 7. I don't remember exactly, but she shipped it to 88 Leonard Gallery, where it was shown prominently.
81 Leonard. I'm sorry, it's 81 Leonard Gallery.
Sorry, I said that before.
No worries.
I apologize. 81 Leonard. Sorry, Nancy.
No worries.
She shipped this along with 2 other pieces that were shown at 81 Leonard. And it wasn't practical just to have the piece travel with the exhibit as it went to the various locations in California. but I just really felt it was a significant piece that we should share with you. Now, Marina's a really interesting artist. She's a young woman and she's a tattoo artist. And one of the materials that she uses in tattooing is a dye called gentian violet. And gentian violet is what she used to color this piece. And it's a dye that can be put on the skin temporarily so that it provides sort of a template for the tattoo artist to follow. And it has this gorgeous color, this intense purple hue. It also happens to have antifungal and antibacterial properties. It's classified as a synthetic dye. It's also used by plastic surgeons for marking the skin and, as I said, tattoo artists. So it's kind of interesting because there's so much meaning that's packed into it. Obviously, for Jews, tattooing is a fraught topic since the Holocaust because Jewish prisoners in concentration camps and non-Jewish prisoners were tattooed with numbers to keep track of them. So there is that kind of emotional response, I think, that a lot of Jewish people have, even though a lot of Jewish people have tattoos now that are by choice, obviously, and very much celebrated. The other thing that kind of holds up symbolically about gentian violet is the antibacterial aspects, because Jews were described by Hitler and by the Nazis as germs and as vermin, and in a sense of being a social disease. So this idea of this material that she's using that is antibacterial kind of resonates there. Now, the most prominent image that we see here is a face in the center. And what this is a visual mashup of Adolf Hitler and Kanye West, two prominent Nazis. And if you doubt that, I mean, Kanye West has been very vocal about his admiration of Hitler and also many anti-Semitic comments that he's made. And Marina said that when she matched the faces up, she didn't have to move anything. They matched up perfectly, which is kind of eerie. Now, the surrounding frame puts this face in the crosshairs. So they are sort of in the crosshairs of our consciousness and perhaps our focused rage and response to all this hatred coming our way. The physical aspects of the frame, the elements in the frame are shoes. They're made up of these Kanye West flip-flops that became I think they were pulled off the market. They couldn't, after he made all his statements, they really couldn't even, Adidas didn't want to sell them. I think it was Adidas. So, yeah, so the shoes are there. And also they resonate for us when we think about concentration camp photos that we've seen, or for people like Nancy, who was actually there. You saw the mountains and piles of shoes. And this also calls to mind the photo that we looked at by Susan Maytel, the suitcases that are piled up at Auschwitz. So the kind of the physical detritus, the remains of human beings. So it's an incredibly powerful piece, and we didn't want you to miss it. The merging of these images of these two awful men acts as a cautionary symbol and a stark reminder, and I'm using Marina's words now, that hatred has the potential to endure and find new champions, especially among those who wield significant influence and command large audiences, often leveraging various facets of culture, such as music, fashion, and politics. And one of the things the last thing I want to say about Marina's aesthetic that I admire so much is something that I really seek in my own artwork, which is that she's hitting us with some very hard, difficult, painful, traumatizing ideas. And at the same time, she's made a piece that's very visually beautiful and very appealing. So the piece kind of pulls you in, you're attracted to it, you're drawn to it, and then it's also repels you once you realize what you're looking at and what the meaning is. Now, we are going to continue with this program in a question and answer format that's going to be formatted by Rabbi Allison. And I am going to try to I'm going to try to keep up and
Sorry,
show
everybody.
images on the screen as questions are raised. So bear with me as I try to do that. But I'm going to hand it over now to Rabbi Allison.
Okay, great. Thanks, Judith. Thanks for navigating, particularly the tech, and just Yona and Judith and Nancy for your exceptional, grappling and holding of this opportunity for the artist to create around this topic. The time is really now for all of us to think together about, are there questions that are arising for folks in seeing different works? Are different works evoking different things for you as an artist about your work? Or what have been the conversations that you're now having or being forced to have now that you've created the art that you've had? These are just some questions to get the ball rolling. Of course, if you have specific questions for any of the artists, please feel free. But we really want to create this opportunity to hear from one another about, what is your experience now seeing some of the art, and on the inside of who you are, how is this time in our world making you think about themes of anti-Semitism and Judaism and your own identity? Is anybody, I think my dear friend and colleague Lisa Silverstein is here. She's an experienced designer at the Oakland Museum, and she has a way of curating a stack. Lisa, do you want to
Yeah,
discuss
sure.
that?
So one practice that I've used before is just if people want to ask a question to either raise their hand or put their name in the chat, and then I will make basically in the order that people say they want to talk. So basically we know who's going to be speaking next, and I'll just type out their names in that order. So I don't know if anyone has any questions to start with. Can we do a screen where it's you can see everybody? So all the tiles?
Yes. And if you do have a question, just unmute and jump in.
But if you want to speak next, you can just put your name in the chat, and then we can kind of stack your name.
I guess I have a question for the group. What's your emotional response as you look at this work? I'm asking the participants, the people who didn't create the art. I'm interested. Okay, Selena, go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
Oh.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. I am overwhelmed with feeling loved and supported and very relieved, because I feel like our surroundings, whether it's media, social media, visuals in our community, although there is so much positive, even the slightest bit or resemblance of anti-Semitism is so horrifying to me. It's so unthinkable. Prior to October 7th, I would have never thought we would be in such a circumstance. And that's very ignorant of me, but that's really how I felt. So I really am so grateful. And I have been part of these kinds of presentations before. I've listened before, but it's almost therapeutic. It's almost spiritual to know that we are united so powerfully. And I am so grateful.
Thank you, Selena. And where are you from, Selena? I'm just curious. Are you from
LA, Los Angeles.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it should be on. I thought I put it in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
I saw that Cheslin raised her hand. Did you want to comment?
Is there?
We have a stack. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing my usual bossy thing. Sorry.
No, I have a system.
No worries.
So Douglas
I'm going to
is
be
next.
quiet.
Douglas is next, and then Yona, and then Cheslin.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I'm in Malibu, by the way, that we started a 501c3 called the Genos Center, Genos Center, activism.org, and it's to eradicate genocide. And we're in the middle of designing the museum and the gardens and the exhibition halls and the chapel. So you might enjoy seeing the if you go to the website, genocenter.org. I also put in the chat a piece that I had at the SIPA Gallery in New York with Hirsch. So I just think it's important that we keep doing these meetings and discussions. And I guess I'm a little tainted because I've been studying the Holocaust for years. And thank you all for listening.
I just wanted to tell you all that another way that we are pushing back is one of our members is creating first of all, he's doing a lot of research at NYU, but also in the field about artists who have been boycotted or in any other way, treated badly. And so there are so many instances of artists that have been canceled, as it were. So Salon is creating an exhibition about that topic. And it will not just be Jewish Art Salon members. It will be, across the board. And we're basically going to say, here it is in your face. This is the work that you wouldn't take. And it's going to take place in New York City. So just one little way of pushing back. That's it.
Thank you, Yona.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to thank my JAS colleagues so very much. I think what it is for me is I wrote here that it's the courage, fortitude, and resilience to resist. It really does take that, that a will to cross to that place of action. And so, I live here in San Rafael, and I am just so grateful that the show came here. And my own it seems like my own life is intersecting with the JCC right now. I've been here, for a few years, but now intersecting with the Marin Open Studios. And for the first time for the history of the Open Studios, the Jewish Community Center is available, which is why I wanted to actually do it this year, because I was so grateful and excited to see, this intersection possible. So that's going to happen at the same time as the show is still up. So that's great.
Great.
But and for me, a way of rising to the occasion now of action and leading protests in a way that I know that action is now critical in a way that in my lifetime I am obliged in every way. So I do want to thank you for just keeping the fire behind us, because even caring isn't enough. We have to act. So, colleagues, thank you.
Thank
I see
you.
that Jeremy raised his hand. I didn't know if you
Yes,
saw that, Lisa. Okay.
Yes, I did raise my hand, and I actually, since I'm seeing the gallery view of those, how many of you feel that we are actually living in Germany and Austria in 1933? Or raise your hands if you feel that that's actually happening in your own lives. I'm just curious to see if that really is.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Got it. And how many of you, one more question and I'll let it go. How many of you are actually considering, like our foreparents did for thousands of years, going somewhere else? I see somebody's got her hand up, maybe a couple others. Just curious. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Jeremy. Powerful questions and frightening experiences that we're living through. Judith, I wondered, do you have other art that
Rabbi,
you
can I
wanted?
make another point?
Absolutely. Just 1 second, Isaac. Just Judith, was there other art that you wanted to show, or do you want me to relieve you of this hosting, and I can try to work on the muting factor because we still have some breathing.
Yeah,
thing.
I can certainly pass it back over to you, yes.
Okay, great. I'll just
So let
see
me
if-
figure out how to do that.
No worries. I just did it. Okay, I just didn't want to take the baton. Isaac, you're up, and I'll see if I can mute folks.
Yeah.
Oh, the Zoom user is all was right before Isaac. Sorry, you don't have the name of the Zoom user there with your hand up.
You're muted. Please unmute yourself, guy in the green shirt. Thank you.
My name's Paula Hames. I live in Washington, D.C., and it's so different from what everybody on the call is saying. It's a terrible time. I've spent the whole day going to meetings about anti-Semitism, and it's overwhelming. My husband and I are not leaving America, but and we didn't lose anybody to Hitler, thank God. Susan, I was in Auschwitz last year. It's too bad that you weren't on our tour. I think being on a tour would have made it easier for you. I want to know what it's like. Is anybody here from the middle of America? Like
Me.
not either coast. Judith, what's it like where you live?
Well, I live in a bubble. I live in the North Shore of Chicago. It's got a huge Jewish presence. I don't necessarily feel anti-Semitism when I go into the city. It's a blue city, so it's very progressive, and there's a lot of diversity here. But when you leave the big cities, it's really different. And I went up to northern Wisconsin last summer, and you just get a whole different vibe. A lot of I don't want to get political, but you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people out in the boonies or out in rural areas or in small cities that really never met any Jewish people or didn't, or if they did, they don't know it. So I'm not sure. It makes me feel uneasy. I keep it to myself, my Jewishness. I find like I was on a plane flying to Washington, D.C. and started chatting with the woman next to me. And I just didn't bring it, we were talking about my art, but I sort of almost apologetically said, well, I'm a Hebrew calligrapher. I was nervous saying it. And she was like, oh, it's wonderful. But, there's this kind of feeling of wanting to keep your head down right now.
Definitely.
I feel that way.
I grew up in New York City. There's nothing to talk about it. You never thought twice about being Jewish. I lived for many years in Boston. You never thought twice. Here where I live, but if I go 200 miles southwest, I wouldn't go. That's how anti-Semitic it is in Southern Virginia. So lots of things are very slanted. I don't think we're really getting an honest picture of what's going on in different parts of America. That's very distressing for me, very.
I want to turn us just a second. I want to actually turn us back to Isaac because I swapped it away from him prior, and then Arnie, you could be after that if that's all right.
I just wanted to make a quick comment as an artist and as someone who's lost family on October 7th and who has a tremendous kind of visceral reaction every time something happened during the war or related to the hostages or anti-Semitic things that came out. This creation of art just comes from a very, very deep place within us. It's a sense of almost like helplessness, like that you're not there doing something more. And I wonder if some of the other artists on the call also feel kind of like this, like your kishkas just are unraveling inside. And the only way to really heal yourself is to produce a piece of art.
Yes. It's cathartic.
Yes, exactly.
I actually hate the piece I showed. It scares me. And it wasn't shown in the JCCs because it's so disturbing. They didn't want to scare the children. But that's how my interior life, that's how it looks right. Well, less so now maybe, but it is necessary to get it out.
Thank you, Isaac. So powerful. The Kishkis. Arnie, you're up.
Okay, I live in Ohio, about 30 miles west of Cleveland, and we do not feel anti-Semitism much at all here. I put together. Well, first of all, I'm not really an artist. My wife is, and she calls me Art Boy, since I do all of her running around, taking her art pieces everywhere. But I put together a huge Yom HaShoah program. I have 1,200 students coming this Friday to hear a Holocaust survivor speak. Next week, I have 1,400 students coming to hear a Holocaust survivor speak. And then that evening, I have about 1,200 people from the community. And I go to different churches for like 3 months and make the announcement about the program. And everybody's very welcoming for me. And it's kind of weird because we do not feel very much anti-Semitism here. It's pretty nice in a way, and you know, and I do all kinds of things. Like I'll call the imam and I'll say, you know, I called him. Can I go to lunch with you? I'm a member of our Jewish synagogue, and he says absolutely. We go to lunch, and I mean, it's kind of like our community is amazing around here. So it's kind of nice for it makes me it gives me hope for humanity because so many people are so welcoming for me, and we never have a problem with these huge programs that I put together. Like we don't have anybody protesting or anything like outside of these Yom HaShoah programs I do. So I just want to say there are some places I think where it's pretty good. I don't know. So it is where I live, luckily so far. So
Thank you, Art Boy. What a title. I love that.
thank you. I feel better now that you said that.
What an honor. What a beautiful you're the Rebbitzin. I love that. It's beautiful. Lisa, you have Yona and Dan and Stephen.
Yona was a while ago, so I'm not sure.
Oh, that was a while ago. Okay.
No, I have a new thing.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I live in New York City where, you know, it's a daily occurrence, you know, things verging on riots sometimes. But in a more quiet way, you know, as a New Yorker, I usually wear black, but I wear that yellow pin, you know, for the hostages. And the comments I get sometimes are vile. So there's some days where I just don't have the koach to do it, but I do. Now contrast that with Amsterdam. I'm originally from the Netherlands. And in Amsterdam, it's also a daily occurrence. But I have a friend and colleague. She works at the Jewish Museum there. Many of you know her, Bilga. She said that the Dutch community is completely like a turtle right now. Completely, they are withdrawn. They keep quiet. There is no stand being made against anything that's happening. You may remember that a couple of months ago, there was like a huge riot there against, you know, Israeli visitors. They don't want to do anything. I think it's so important, however, that we don't go through that same route, that we keep wearing the pins, keep doing whatever we need to do to make sure people know we are Jews and we are proud. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Yona. Stephen, did you, and then
Yeah,
Stephen,
could
and
you-
then I'll just
No, Dan
split up.
first, then Stephen. Dan, then Stephen.
Oh,
All right.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, Isaac, I really appreciate your answer, and I just kind of want to jump off of that. Like, I think that response to October 7th, I guess for me and just, you know, I live in New York City, and I agree with like what Yona says. It's like you know, but at the same time, like I go outside and I wear a kippah, and I also like it's made friends, and I've made really good connections just because I am a visible Jew. And I guess my response has been to that it is worth it, even if it's hard to present yourself as Jewish in the world. And I think what I've seen in my own career and in my own life as a Jewish artist is that there are a lot of people my age who are pissed in a good way are like, no, we want to push back and we want to present ourselves in a steadfast way. And I guess I'm hopeful because there are so many young Jewish people who are looking toward the future and are like, we're going to not let the hatred that we see like define us. And whether that's in our art or in, you know, being active on social media, like whatever it is. And I guess, yeah, so like I live right by Columbia University right now, and I do see those like rallies and all that nonsense every day, but I feel comforted because I see as many posters as I see put up, I see as a lot of people tearing them down, and I guess I just want to say that I'm optimistic about the future. So jumping off what Isaac's saying, thank you.
Even, right?
Could you hear me okay? Could you hear?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. I wish I was as optimistic as Dan. He's younger. I think I'm also an artist, and you could, I just recently did a series called Uden, which you could see on, well, you can see it on my website with that name, art with ending with art.com, or on Instagram underscore artwork after my name. But I did that series because of everything we're all talking about, you know, this impending, which feels like impending doom. And I think that it's a very complex subject for me for so many reasons, because we're all dancing around the domestic politics. And I think a mistake Jews have made historically is thinking this is our guy. And our guy has always been essentially a false prophet, to use a Jewish kind of term. But for example, I think that you know, all of Trump's talk about
Stephen,
that-
actually, I'm gonna just
Oh,
pause here. I really,
yeah.
we have like one more minute, and if there's a
okay.
comment related to the art, I just want to
Okay.
keep us there, and actually,
All
I
right.
want to
Well, all right.
end
I
everybody
guess
off.
my artwork is a comment on all this stuff. But I was just going to say, I didn't mean to get into a rant. But basically, I think that that everything that's happening in American politics now is going to come back and affect Jews, because people are going to blame, you know, a lot of things happening in Israel and et cetera. You know, they're going to associate all these things with Trumpism, and that was my point. But you can see my series, Uden, and I think it speaks to the subject.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Everybody, it's 6:15, and I want to just really give a bow of appreciation and a holding of all of our hearts. You know, I think, Isaac, as you said it, and Jeremy, as you quizzed it, and many of you as you created it, like this is a very raw time, and the best that can come, I think, out of all of us is that creation and is that creativity. So I just want to encourage us all to keep creating, because that's really where our kishkis can come out into the world and respond and speak to each other. We can find one another in these ways. So Yasher Koach, really, to everyone's strength for having the courage to keep creating and to find one another and to come tonight. And the final thing is just, you know, this Omer, it's really a deep practice. I think it was Jeremy that you said, you know, turning to our tradition to give us strength. And tonight is the 16th night, and it's about Gevura of Tiferet, the strength and the balance. And I just want to leave us as we head into the evening of, you know, this balance of holding that strength, having the Gevura, having the courage and the fortitude and the resolve to stand our ground, and then to be able to find ways to bring the balance and hold hold ourselves with compassion and each other and the world, because there's a piece actually, and Judith, I don't know if you could flash it up, but there's a piece in the show of a dandelion growing between the concrete. And I keep looking at that piece quite a bit as a way of, thinking about how is it that we keep going. And it's we are pushing through. We maintain the roots, hopefully to tradition and each other, but we keep growing even through the concrete. So thank you all, Yona, Judith, and Nancy, for your helmliness, your holding and creating this beautiful space. And thank you all for being together. I think you probably saw in the email that I sent, but we do have an opportunity on the 7th to hear from Avi Melamed, who's an Israeli news and political analyst, really powerful, very neutral, but very informative. And then on the 1st, this Thursday night, we're going to eat some falafel and hear from a wonderful professor from USC talking about the intersection between food and politics. So many access points. Thank you all so much for being with us.